In this demonstration, we will be calling the retail API using Postman. The agenda for this training is first we will be setting up Azure App Registration. Then we will set up the identity provider in Dynamics. Third, we'll be calling these retail APIs using Postman. And in the fourth step, we will be dissecting these calls from the SQL Server side using Profiler. Step 1. Let's set up Azure App Registration. For setting up app registration, go into your Azure Active Directory, and in the bottom you will see app registration. Click on that. You will see that it requires a name for app registration, and just give any name of your choosing, and then select the account in this organization only single tenant. This is required, don't select multi-tenant, and then leave this blank as the redirect URL. After that, register it. Now I will give permissions for the Dynamics API so that this app registration has the access for calling them. Now I will do the same for application as well, which requires connector. Once that is done, I will switch to certificates and secret, and here in the bottom section or the bottom grid I will generate a new secret that generate that and save it in a notepad that will be required later. I am not generating here just for security purpose. Second step is to set up identity provider in Dynamics 365. So I will be going into retail and commerce, and then selecting commerce shared parameter, and then go into identity provider. Here you will set up the identity providers. In this case, this is the Active Directory link, which can be either Active Directory ID or the text itself. Then I copied the client ID from app registration and pasted it here. The type should be confidential and the user type should be application, and in the name of the app registration would go. In this case it is retail server API, and after that in the server resource ID it takes the link of the retail server. It can be either your dev server if you are Before going into the Postman to call the retail APIs, we have to sync the job. In order to do that, we will go to retail and commerce, and from there we will go to channel database group to sync the jobs. From here either you can do a full push for all the jobs, which is job 999, or you can do the global configuration, which is 1110, to push the changes which we have done on the parameter form. But in this case this is a dev system, so I will just do a full push and call 999. Third step is to call the API using Postman. So in the Postman, we have set up the calls for the retail server to different API, but before that we have to call the Active Directory and to get the active access token. In order to do that, you will call loginmicrosoftonline.com with the tenant ID, and I have kept it in a variable, and then calling the OAuth authentication to get the access token.
In order to do that, you have to make a post call to that and then pass the parameter in the body. You have to pass the grant type as client credentials, client ID of the app registration, which we did in Azure in the earlier part, client secret, and then the resource is the retail server URL. So you will pass those variables as the parameters to the post call, and this post call will return you an access code. So I'm now pressing send, and you can see that I got an access token. This is a long string, so I will be saving this in a variable so that when I'm passing the it to the other APIs, I don't have to copy it. So I parse the JSON and set it in a variable, and that will be used in the other calls. Now we will be calling the get order history method and of the customer 2001. And in order to do that, we have set up the POMs to bring all the top 60 record and set the API version to 7.3, and in the header set the authorization code and set the variable so that it picks up the access code from the variable which we just had generated for the access code. And then this is the organizational unit for the retail channel, and there's nothing in the body because this is just a get. We are getting the data. We're not posting anything like creating a customer or anything like that. So let's start do a send. So it got some results, so you can see that.
Now we are calling the product API, or sorry, it is customer API. Just called it get product. Instead, let's call get product availability function, and it will tell us whether this product is available or not. And it's similarly, we just passed all the params for how many records, what we want and where to start from in the API version. And in the header we are passing the authorization code, type of content, and in the body it's a JSON or a format where we are passing the ID as rec ID for item, distinct item, and the channel ID. So let's pass it and see what we get. So this product ID with the rec ID is available in 12. In the later part we will dissect this call into SQL and see how it is getting called. Then let's create a customer. Similarly, we just have to set the POMs for the initial parameters, and then in the body we are passing the mandatory params, which is the first name, last name, name, and customer group required to create the customer. And let's send it. So we can see that a customer has been created. Later we will see it in Dynamics if that customer was created or not. Now just showing the customer which we created through Retail API, showing up that it is already in Dynamics created. So just wanted to show that it's created in real time. So these were the values which we had passed through the API. So now I will be going over to SQL and dissecting these calls and showing up in the profiler how it works. Fourth and the final step Here we will be dissecting the SQL Server Retail API calls into SQL, and we'll be looking into through profiler, SQL profiler, how these are called from SQL. So now I am in SQL Server, and what I have done is I have started a profile, SQL profile, and just selected these two, and in the column filter I have put commerce like this, so that it only filters commerce runtime calls. So here I have, just for demo purposes, called